everyone. This is Joe and Linda Burton with Fighting to Stay Married. This week, have our special guests again, Pastor Kathy Flowers and Pastor James Flowers. And we're going to be talking about the importance of goodwill in our relationships. So welcome, Pastor Kathy. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good to have you guys again. So yeah, let's start this topic then. Importance of goodwill.
Okay, well, I think goodwill is something that quite often people just neglect or think is something that should normally happen. The problem with goodwill is it actually, our natural nature will destroy it if we let it. Goodwill, in my frame that I do, at the bottom of our frame, when we talk about that, you can't solve problems without goodwill. And that's why goodwill becomes so important to relationships, because you can't solve conflicts. You can't work through problem-solving steps. Can't do none of that without goodwill.
And without goodwill, you really don't want to.
Mm-mm.
So you've got to understand how important it is and be conscious of it so that you can always have that in front, even when you're not feeling wonderful towards the other person. If you have goodwill in the relationship, it will cause you to want to work with that person to resolve whatever issues you might be having at the time.
Mm-hmm. So the concept actually is biblical in its essence. It comes from, I think, Matthew, the 8th chapter, around the 1st through the 8th verses there. And I don't know if you want to read it, but it's an account of where Jesus meets this guy who has got this leprosy.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, the man says to Jesus, he says, look, if you're willing, you can make me clean. And Jesus reached out and touched him and said, I will. And the scripture goes on to say he was immediately cleaned and all of that. And then he went on his way to Capernaum, I think it was, Capernaum. He ran into the centurion, and the centurion said he had a servant who was very sick in bed and in terrible pain. And Jesus said, I will go and heal him. Now, we kind of in the religious world or the clergy world, we really jump on the rest of that, which says, Jesus said, wow, I've never seen a person with such great faith.
Mm-hmm.
But the first part of that is really important. In other words, he was willing to go and heal him. He was going out of his way. He had an agenda. He had something else to do. He was willing to go out of his way for the benefit of this other person. There lies the concept of goodwill. Goodwill simply means I want your life to be good, and I'm willing to do what I can to make it good. Goodwill.
And those are simplified, that's a simplified way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can understand how important it is. Because when you don't have it, you don't care about the other person. You don't want to solve problems with them. You don't care how they feel about the problem. You could care less
Mm-hmm.
about them and whatever that is that's facing the both of you. So it's important to make sure that you work toward having goodwill with one another. And what that looks like is, I don't want you to be hurt in any shape, form, or fashion. And with Jesus, he didn't want this man to be hurt. Now, leprosy was a disease that had no cure at that time. And so people were isolated. They were usually put in a camp area, and they weren't able to work, provide for their family. They weren't able to be with other people because it was a disease that was infectious. And so Jesus understood the man's dilemma the fact that he couldn't be with his family, the fact that he couldn't walk the streets of the city or do anything that would be the normal thing to do. So Jesus had compassion. And that's one of the key ingredients of goodwill, is to have compassion for the other person. I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel that you can't do whatever it is that we need to do together. So what I will do is I will put, and I don't want to say I'll put my feelings on hold, but I will work toward making sure that your life is as good as I can possibly make it. And that comes with a decision, just making a decision to do right by the people you say you love. It's not always easy.
No, I was gonna ask a question on that, because a lot of people kind of keep this score, I guess. Like, oh, so how would you say to a person that says, okay, I don't like how you treated me this way. This way for the past week, right? So I'm not going to show any goodwill to you. Those kind of mindsets.
And so always when things like that start to happen, it's an indication that goodwill might be wounded or bruised. It becomes extremely important for us that we nurture the goodwill of our mate.
Right.
When they have goodwill for us, it's not automatic. And I think quite often we grow up in a culture that makes us think we came from a survival set, from a slavery place, that makes us think that you're supposed to have goodwill for me and you should operate with it because that's the right thing to do. The problem with this is that goodwill it comes from a free person. It doesn't come from an enslaved person.
Right.
You have to be free to be you, to give your will to someone else. You actually have to be a free person. So whenever we try to bind a person or control the person or hold them back or
hold them hostage,
it starts to destroy their goodwill for us. So that's how we get into problems in our relationships, because we do things that cause each other to start to lose goodwill. We can operate from a place where we think we're right. The problem with being right is if the person doesn't have goodwill for you, they don't care if you're right or not. So
and they're not even willing to hear you try to plead your case. Because goodwill, and I was just thinking about this, and correct me if I'm wrong. When we look at a child, anyone under the age of 5 that is vulnerable, we wouldn't even give it a second thought to say, oh, I'm going to hurt this child. We would do any and everything within our power to make sure that child is living the best life they can possibly live. And so what we do is we put forth the effort to make sure that their life is good. We make sure that they have all that they need. So we go out of our way to make sure that stays in place. Now, after children get over the age of 5, they start, they can get a little smart. They can get sneaky. They start doing things that, puts a burr in your shoe, if you will. And so what you start doing is you want to still have that goodwill. You still want to have that good relationship with this child. But at the same time, now the child is causing you problems. It's causing you issues. So do you pull your goodwill away from the child? No. Because they don't even understand.
They don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, they don't understand what we're talking about. They don't understand how this works or anything. So you manage to always give goodwill to that child. when that child begins to understand how you are treating them, they in turn learn how to treat others. So that's why it's important to be a good example to the following generation, to our own children, to our household, to our family members, because some people don't understand goodwill until they see it actually operate.
So that might have some verbiage that sounds like this. When you do this, this will happen. When you do that, then that will happen. It's your choice. What I'm doing is, if you decide to do this and create pain for yourself,
Right.
I'm not creating that pain for you. You are creating it. Okay. And at the same time, I'm giving you opportunities to make choices so that you can get better and more skilled at making good choices.
Right.
Meanwhile, I continue to have goodwill for you. Remember, I want your life to be good, and I'm willing to do what I can to make it. Okay. There are some things that's important though for us to talk about or just look at when we talk about goodwill. First of all, again, like I said, you have to be a free person to develop and extend goodwill. You actually have to be free. Free means I'm not under obligation.
Right.
Sometimes we get that wrong. We think because you took on this title that now you are obligated to me. And the reality is my job is to free you, because you can't really have goodwill for me if you don't feel free
to do so.
Okay, so the other thing is there are some ways of talking. There are things that destroy goodwill. First one is blame. Blame destroys goodwill.
It's a cancer to the relationship.
So if I start blaming you, I lose your goodwill. I start losing it right away. And because what blame actually does is it says you're responsible for the wrong. Think about that. Think about telling someone telling you that you are responsible for what is wrong.
In other words, they're telling you that you're wrong.
Yeah. So you don't want to work with them now. How willing are you now to work with them when they just made the problem you? That's what blame does. Blame makes the other person responsible for what's wrong. Okay. The other thing is if I understand that I need your goodwill to solve problems with me, I become responsible for how I communicate with you.
And how I treat you.
So I need to understand a couple of things. First of all, if I judge you, you're going to begin to lose goodwill for me. This happened because you wouldn't do this. That's judging. Okay, now
it's your fault.
It's your fault.
Right.
Now you begin to lose goodwill for me. As you start to lose goodwill, goodwill means this. I want your life to be good. What that really means is I'm willing to become inconvenienced for your good. I am willing to be inconvenienced for your betterment.
Uh-oh, Pastor, you didn't touch on a touchy subject there. You know what kind of world we live in?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it's difficult for people. You know what? I'll say it like this. Everyone desires and wants the ideal relationship. They're not willing to put in the work. Now, I don't mean it's, laboring every day. I got to be nice to Linda. I got to make sure I say this. I got to make sure I can't forget to do that. But people don't want to do the work. And the work is to be conscientious of what you say when you say, and how you say. That makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Because not every opportunity is, not every situation is an opportunity for you to come in and give your opinion. Sometimes I need to work things out on my own. I don't need to hear from you how I should do it or how I could do it, or have you ever considered doing it this way? There are times when that person is open, but if I'm always riding your back about how you're doing it wrong, it eats away at that feeling like, you know what, it's painful to be around you, because every time I'm around you, I'm feeling a little, you know?
Yeah, because I know that, because I mean, we have that mentality, or you can see it in commercials and all that, that treat yourself and you deserve it, and you know all that stuff. But like it's the opposite. You have to actually be, you know, focusing on someone else. Because I mean, I know I don't do a good job with it all the time, but like you said, you got to be conscious of interest. You know, you have to be thinking about it.
And that is, there goes all of us. We don't always do a good job at this. That's who we all are. That all of us are struggling with this concept. Okay, so it is, if you're willing to become inconvenient for me, I need to be appreciative of that.
Right.
And treat it right. If that's level one. If you're willing to become uncomfortable for me, a deeper level, I need to be aware of that and treat it with respect. Now, how do I respect your inconvenience and your be willing to become uncomfortable? I need to free you. Keep freeing you. What happens is I start to think you're supposed to, which discounts and discounts you and puts down your self-worth. That destroys your goodwill for me. Now I can't solve my problem with you.
Because if the problem involves both of us, that means that both of us have to work congruently, meaning that I'm willing to become aligned with you so that I can do what's needed for the relationship. And that's not always easy to do, because some people are more work than others. I'll just leave it at that. But some people, it takes more energy on your part to have goodwill for them because of the difficulty of who they are. It could be a personality thing. It could be a cultural thing. It could be a gender thing. You know, oh, you're supposed, I'm not supposed to do anything but take care of Kathy. That's what I'm supposed to do. So if I go outside of Kathy, that means that I am offering myself as a sacrifice. I'm sacrificing myself to do something that I really don't have to do. I can live without doing that. But for your sake, I will do it because of the goodwill that I have toward you. And it's so important. Once you have goodwill, you need to protect it. You've got to guard it. You've got to make out like it's one of the most important things in the relationship. Because when it leaves, it's hard to get it back. It actually takes a bit of work to get that back. So if you have goodwill, protect it. Like scripture says in Proverbs, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So if you allow things to come into your heart that could possibly damage your heart. Because, you know, there's some people that you just can't get away from. You got to deal with them maybe every day or 5 days a week. You know, maybe they're the person at work. So you've got to guard yourself so that when you go back to work the following week, you don't have a rock in your chest for that person. You know, maybe they're difficult.
Yeah.
And all of us, none of us really know how difficult or what I know I'm a piece of work. I know that.
Uh-oh.
Yes. I know that. I know that. You know, but I try very consciously to not get outside of a place where I'm making him uncomfortable. Like, oh, where's she coming from now? What is that about? You know, we've got to be conscious of how we come across to other people, what we say to other people, how we act around other people, because it could cause hardship on their end.
So when you don't have good, yes, sir, Joe.
You know what? I wanted to go back to, there was 3 words that you had said, Kathy. It made me think about some things I heard or saw in the past. It's like, oh, you supposed to. So I remember, we're not see. It's like, and this could be a hot topic too. But like, let's say child support, right? I have heard of in this case it was a woman. Like, oh, you supposed to take care of your child. That, you know, wait a minute. No, let me back up. It's like, why should I thank you? It's something that you're supposed to do, right? And on his face, I think he knows he's supposed to take care of his child, but it's like it was a thankless thing, you know. Even in that scenario, even, you know, you can still say thank you,
right?
Because it brings goodwill in his mind,
right?
But I have heard that said too, and even in job relationships, right? I know we're talking about couples here, but even in relationship at work, when they try to, and I think this environment is changing nowadays, but you got to treat your employees differently now because, like, oh, I'm paying you.
Yep.
Yeah, but someone else could pay me too, and they might pay me more. You know,
Because that attitude causes the person to not be loyal to you.
right.
They're not loyal.
So this thing kind of spreads far and wide, I think, right? So
yes, sir. Yes.
We all have to learn or we all have to relearn. Right?
Right.
You're supposed to be doing that. Like, so yeah.
That is probably never a good thing to say to a person. You're supposed to. That probably will destroy goodwill.
Because there are many, and just in this particular scenario, there are many men that do not.
Yeah.
So if you have a man that does, thank you.
That's the proper words.
Thank you. You know, you don't have to put a guilt trip on me. Just say thank you.
Free the person.
Yeah, and you go on your way, and I'll go on my way.
Free the person. It is. These are some real things that we may not think about, like you were saying, Joe, often. But whenever we have conflict, these are the things that make it difficult to work through that conflict. The lack of goodwill.
Yeah, they come up to the surface. Stuff that maybe you've been choking on, and you know you can't swallow properly because you're all just ugh. And it starts to surface if that goodwill is not there. You know, because sometimes you could just blast a person, but you choose not to. Because you do not. If that person has goodwill for you, you do not want to destroy it. Because it's not something that comes easily. People have destroyed goodwill with one another not really even knowing that they were doing that.
Wow.
And again, a lot of this comes from our parents, who were probably the first or second generation out of slavery, who was taught to, who experienced being controlled by someone that didn't care about goodwill for you or not. You better. So you have to, you better. And so they told my generation, you have to, you better. They were pointing fingers and threatening with pain and that kind of thing. And that was our experience. We grew up with it. We turned around and did it to our kids. You have to, you better. Then
if you don't,
then this, and then they marry someone and they start doing that to each other. And they start to lose goodwill for each other. And now they discover not only can they not solve problems, they can't even talk to each other.
They don't even
not
like
for
each
real.
other.
Because they don't like each other.
I don't like you. I don't like you anymore.
Worse than that. Wow, yeah.
So Jesus said this, I think it is Matthew 11 or something over there. He said, come unto me and take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. Now,
and you'll find rest for your soul.
You'll find rest for your soul. Where should you find rest outside of Jesus? With your mate. Well, hopefully that makes sense. So how do you find rest with a person who is not meek or lowly in heart?
Yeah, you don't want to be pulling up in the driveway and sitting in the car for 5 minutes like, oh man, I got to go in this house.
I was just about to say that, Joe. You know, ask yourself, does my mate want to come home? Are they breaking speed records to get home? And then when they get home, are they glad that they made it home? See, the relationship between a husband and a wife should always be the type of relationship that enhances your life. You know, like it's like taking care of a beautiful car. You know, as beautiful as that car is, if you don't wash it, nobody will see the beauty underneath it because they're so busy looking at the dirt and the gunk and the stuff. So what we do in those first few years of marriage, you know, we're kissing and smooching and hugging and rubbing and
watch out.
Okay. Watch out. And doing all of that. And then we forget how to continue the kissing and the smooching, because I mean that should go throughout your lifetime. It doesn't need to stop because of age or anything. The kids need to see you smooching and hugging and rubbing. They need to, yeah. But we've got to set an example, because so many people are not wanting to get married anymore because it looks like it's work, and it's not. It just has to be a decision. This is what we want. This is what we work toward, and this is our goal. Because if I'm going to live with you for the rest of my life, I want it to be good. So I want to maintain goodwill in my relationship. I don't want to sabotage anything in my relationship. I'm going to do my best to give you my best, to be the best me, so that you can enjoy me as your wife. So
Sugar does this. Every morning I get up around 5.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm up around 5 in the morning.
You retired, Pastor?
It's just who I am now. 5 o'clock, eyes open up. I'm like, okay, time to get up. So Sugar gets up a little bit later, and she'll get up, and then she'll go downstairs and she'll fix breakfast.
Oh, okay.
So what I do, she'll call me. What? What?
Nothing, nothing.
So she'll she'll fix breakfast, and then she'll call me. She said, breakfast is ready, so I come down and I'll eat. What I don't want to ever do is get up from the table and walk away without saying thank you, ma'am. Because thank you, ma'am says, I recognize that you inconvenienced yourself,
That you sacrificed.
that you sacrificed for my benefit. So if you walk away and don't say nothing, now what I'm doing is I'm thinking you supposed to do that.
There's that word.
Don't say that, Pastor.
Because you're my wife, this is your job. Hey, I can fix one plate. My plate. I don't have to fix your plate because there's nothing wrong with your arms, nothing wrong with your hands. So you can fix your own food. But I choose not to do that. And some people have said, I have spoiled my husband. And that's quite all right, because this is my husband. And he's worth spoiling. Because we've learned how to have goodwill for one another. And it's worked for us all these years. I mean, and it's not waned. It's not diminished. It's not leaving. It's better than it was when we first got married.
Nice. Wow, okay.
Now, this is good for people who are just starting off, who's just getting married, to learn this part of it, or dating, of having goodwill and taking what they say at their word, and not doing the blame or the judgment and different things like that. But what happened, I want to also touch on what happened if they've been married for a while and they are at that place. They have been blaming, they have been judging, they have not been taking their spouse at their word, or they got to the point that it's hard for them to start cooking that meal and different things like that. Mm-hmm. What do you guys recommend as being married so long, and how can they get back on the track of having goodwill?
Well, hopefully if a couple like that actually saw this video, one of the things that could come out of that, or even if they went to a seminar or something where a conference where he actually talked about this, because one of the things that happen is this thing called these stair steps. One is unskilled, unaware. No, you can't help yourself if you're unskilled and unaware. You don't know. Mm-hmm. But the beginning of learning is the second step, is unskilled, but now aware. Mm-hmm. That's the beginning of learning. And so as a person hears this, they may still be unskilled, but they become aware. Mm-hmm. Okay, so once you become aware, the beginning of the learning process is to make the decision to change something. Right. So that might start with one person, or they may be able, if they were at a conference, to be guided through a process where they both make this decision to change, which puts them in stair 3, which is skilled and aware, which is the most difficult place of all of them. Skilled and aware means I'm trying something new that's not natural to me. Right. It's not easy it's just not what I normally do. But I'm disciplining myself to keep trying it until it becomes comfortable for me.
Even that part is very vulnerable. Like if they're not getting sometimes a positive response right away, a lot of them just quit. They just stop instead of giving it time for the person to hear. Sometimes it takes time, and
right.
And it could be days and
years.
Yeah.
I heard some stories about years.
They got it set in their mind. They can't do that switch over. They're still thinking they're that person. I remember, years back, Joe did something, and he had a pattern, and I was stuck on that's who he was. And then one day, I brought it to his attention, and he goes, "When was the last time I did it? The last time I did it was 10 months ago." And you know what I did? Instead of hearing, okay, he changed in 10 months, I go, well, what happened 10 months ago? And it took me time to realize, wait a minute. Yeah, he did change. He is not that person.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't recognize it. He had to tell me. And once he told me that I changed, I made that commitment a few months ago, then I had to quickly go through my mind, you know what? You're right. I haven't seen this act in that month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The person's not even aware that other person is changing. They say it after a while, if they feel safe enough to say, hey, I want to try to make this change, but the other partner has to be open that they might mess up again. Like they might go back into, they're struggling, like, oh, I messed up, let me try it again. So I think that's part of it, but I think they get stuck there. That's the hardest one to do is that stage.
I think a lot of people keep records. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be keeping records. And I'm not talking about writing a journal, because I think a journal entries is a little different because I don't know, because I think there's benefits to writing a journal, but I think it has to do with the person's heart if they're going to keep a record. Wrong that you have done, and they're able to list them off real quick.
You know what? That's why, and this is something that we haven't really talked about, is to be courteous. When someone does something, say thank you. Don't just take it for granted, but say thank you. When a person is trying and maybe it's difficult, when they get it right, say, wow, you did that. And it was probably hard for you, but you did that. And I appreciate it. I see your growth. We have a tendency to do that with other people, but within our relationship, we have a tendency to withhold the courtesies and just being kind,
even acknowledging
or acknowledging when someone does something right. We do that with our children. Oh, you're supposed to, you're supposed to do that. Well, when they do it, say thank you, because that is like sugar instead of salt. And sugar and salt look the same, but the taste is totally different. So instead of putting salt on a person, put sugar on a person, and that encourages them to continue that behavior rather than bring it up. Or I remember the last time you did that. Well, hey, I remember it too, but I don't need you to throw it in my face. So helping a person, because all of us have habits. That's just who we are. We do what we do, and we don't even know if it's rubbing the other person the wrong way. But if they say something, we need to make a mental note of that and say, you know what, I'm going to try not to say that again. I'm going to try not to do that again. So again, that word, being conscientious, just being mindful of the other person, really helps the relationship to maintain its stability, because we can rock the boat so much that person, rather than fall off, they'll jump off. They'll jump out of the boat rather than fall out of the boat because it's rocking. Hey, you know what? It'd be easier for me to just be eaten by sharks rather than to deal with this. So I think it's encouraging when we help one another grow, because this is what we're doing in our relationships. We're growing. We're learning. We don't know it all yet. We haven't perfected anything, and nothing will be perfected until after we die. But on the journey, make the effort to help that person grow, whatever that looks like. There were things that he did when we first got married that used to just drive me nuts. And rather than just harp on it, I said, Kathy, just do it. shut up and just do it. And I started doing it, and that is not a problem anymore. He doesn't do that thing anymore. So sometimes our mouth can get us into trouble.
Oh, yeah. That's why you only have one of them.
Yeah. You know, diarrhea of the lips, it's a mess. It's a mess. So,
I mean, a positive attitude at the same time.
right.
For those good things. It's so easy to find the bad, you know, because you're stuck there.
Right.
Like, what have I not noticed that he is doing? What can I start saying thank you for that I hadn't said it before? I think it's that mindset of putting on those different glasses of looking for those positive things to try to even keep you more encouraged to keep going.
Right.
It's frustrated that he's not doing anything, so what's going on? But then you put those glasses on and see what is he doing. And sometimes you realize you're the one that's not doing anything. You know, so I think that helps out a lot.
You know what, Kathy? You had said sharks. When you say jump into the water, jump out of the boat. You know what? That brought to mind a movie. There was a movie based on that. These three couples. They remember that movie?
No.
There was this movie, The Three Couples. I think it's Couples Retreat. I think that's the name of it. But I know Vince Vaughn is in it. And so they were all in this boat. I think they went to some kind of island, right? And I think one couple was doing pretty good in their relationship. One couple wasn't doing so well, and the other couple was so. But you brought up that example, and that's exactly what happened, because the husband and wife started getting into it, and she just jumped out of the boat.
Oh my!
Shark infested. It wasn't the ocean, but because it didn't go that far. But it was shark infested, and the husband, she jumped out and just started swimming, and then the other character said, "You don't realize what you just done, man. Your wife just jumped into shark-infested waters to get away from you."
Wow.
I remember that line very well.
Okay.
I know this is a topic we are talking about tonight, but it's really a thing about creating a safe environment.
Right.
You know, creating a safe place for people to actually be themselves. But that's probably something for a different time. But the whole thing with Goodwill is recognizing this, that every human in the world actually has the right to be who they are. They actually have the right to be themselves. So if they stop being themselves to benefit you, it's something you can appreciate.
Right.
But you can't appreciate it if you don't know that they have the right to be themselves.
Right. Because I can be a crazy black woman, but I choose not to be.
And I can be an angry black man, and I choose not. Yeah, I choose not to be. I'm with you.
Yeah. So what we need, what's important, I think, is going back to being courteous, to being kind, to paying compliments. Sometimes we think, oh, we did that when we were dating. Continue dating. Continue flirting with one another. Make it fun to be married. And I think people, oh yeah, well, we're married now. Really? Hey, I'm married, been married for 50 years, and I am enjoying myself and my husband.
Having fun.
Yeah. And make it so that marriage will be attractive to the other generation, to the next generation, to the generation underneath us. Make it so that they say, you know what? That's what I want.
I think that's one thing that we didn't do so well for your generation. We didn't make marriage attractive to your generation. And so we're saying, why don't they want to be married? Well, they looked at us. And they saw the pain.
At our generation, not us, you and me, individually.
Yeah, well, they looked at our generation and saw the pain we caused each other.
Yeah.
So why would they want to do that to each other?
And unfortunately, people are still causing pain to one another. That's very unfortunate, because to me, I have said this to my husband on several occasions. Boy, oh boy, God really knew what he was doing when he said to get married. I don't have to worry about venereal diseases. I don't have to worry about him coming home with anything that he doesn't need to come home with, because I know he has saved himself for me, and I have saved myself for him. And that's the safest relationship that you can have, when you keep yourself for the other person and you do all that you can for the other person. There's a benefit to it. God knew what he was doing when he created us and said it's not good for man to be alone. He understood the fact that we needed one another. The male brings something to the table that the female cannot, and vice versa. You know?
In other words, we need each other to survive.
Yes, yes. Oh, God.
Great. This has been a great topic. The importance of goodwill.
And the attractiveness, I love that.
And the attractiveness of.
I like that I should make my husband always feel attracted to our marriage. We want to be married. I love that part. One other thing you said that I thought about is when I learned this a while back. When Joe does something to irritate me, before I decide to go any farther, ask him. Sometimes simply ask him, why did you do this? And it could be, oh my goodness, it was just not that long ago.
The gas?
No, not the gas, but when you get away my dessert.
The dessert?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
You know me, don't play with my dessert. And we went over a friend's house or a relative house, and I ate only half of my cheesecake. Now, you know I'm a dessert person, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah. And then I only ate half. I went to the bathroom for something, and it was time to go. And somebody asked, can they have my cheesecake? And Joe said, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, it's my cheesecake.
I don't remember this.
And then he's still trying to catch up with me.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
And I'm sorry. I'm just because I knew I was going to eat the other half of cheesecake when I got home. You know what I mean? It's only,
Nope.
So we driving home, and I'm like, I can feel it in me. And that's when I realized, stop, ask him. And what I did was I learned sometimes I have to do it backwards. Instead of saying, why'd you give my cheesecake away? Don't give away my food. You know I love dessert. I had to go backwards and say, next time, can you not do that? I didn't understand why you did that. And his response was, he thought she already took a bite of it. You know what I'm talking about. and so I'm like, and I'm a germphobe. I'm picky about my food. Don't touch my food. I don't like when waitress reach over my food. I'm picky about that. So he actually did it in a way of being polite and everything. But at first, when we first started walking out, I had to start saying something because I really wanted my dessert, like it was a good piece of cheesecake. I was saying, I can't believe you did it. Why did you, I can't get it. And his response kept on being, it's okay, we can get another one. Okay, you can get another one. So he was never giving me what I needed to let go. He was just saying all the way to the car, we're having this discussion, like, I can't believe I love my dessert, especially my cheesecake. I only had a couple of bites. And he was like, no, I'll buy you another one. It's not that serious or whatever. But then when I learned how to ask backwards or say what I want is, don't give away my dessert. He was able to hear me and say, well, this is why I did it. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. Because I would have been even more irritated eating noise somebody else touching my foot. I learned to do it that way. So sometimes it's just asking why. Why did you do that? Or say, I don't like this, and is there a way that you can't do this anymore because it bothers me, it hurts me, anything like that. But once he told me that, it's kind of like, okay, and we do different things in public without even realizing to protect the person. If somebody drank out of his drink one time by accident, I remember taking something that I had and put it in his cup so he can know not to drink out of that cup. And at first he looks at me like, why should she do that? But then he got the cue later, okay, she wanted me not to drink out of that cup because something was in it, or somebody accidentally drank out of it. So sometimes we do it for a good reason, but the other spouse don't see that good reason. So ask.
So goodwill, it basically comes back to goodwill.
Yeah, and ask. Don't just, before you take it as a negative thing or a bad thing, look or ask.
And there's always a different way, I think, to say something.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Thing that popped in your mind, you can still think of a different way to say it than the thing that first popped in your mind.
Mhm.
Right. We talked about that on Monday at another program, and one of the things that we said, always ask yourself, is there another way that I can say this?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to offend the other person. You don't want to hurt the other person, but at the same time, the person with the problem needs to speak up. They're the person that needs to say something, but don't say it with an accusation attached to it, because now I'm blaming you.
Mhm.
And like we said earlier, blame is a cancer in a relationship. If you keep blaming over and over and over again, a person will stop trying, and they won't. What they're doing is they are emotionally backing away. They're emotionally detaching themselves, and then you're married to a piece of cardboard because that person has just shut down completely.
Wow. This has been good stuff, guys. We want to wrap it up here. We thank you so much for your time. I can already see that benefiting lots of people. Right, so thank you for your time. So
You're welcome.
You're
Thank
more
you
than
for
welcome.
having us. Thank you.
Yes.
you want to share where people can actually find some information out about you, where to go, your website and whatnot?
Yeah, our website is called Family Life Institute, or Inland Empire Family Life Institute. You can come to our website at https:// Family Life Institute IE or inlandempire.com.
Oh, okay. And I know, Pastor Kathy, you have something that you do on Tuesdays.
We have a broadcast. It's called Hope for a Woman's Heart, and it's geared toward infusing hope into the heart of women. I've had men on there as well, but I talk about a lot of different subject matters. This month, I'm talking about why am I here? Because a lot of people struggle with, okay, what is my life about? Why is my life? So that's the subject matter that we're tackling this month.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you guys again for your time. And last thing,
Give them our website.
so yes, I guess that's important too, I suppose. So, yeah, this is the broadcast that we do, and this is one of our broadcasts called From Generation to Generation. And we try to help and future generations that's below us, try to help guide them through these waters of life. So you can find us at jlburtonllc.com. Find out some of the things that we do there. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. We'd love to answer. And thank you. So
You're more than welcome.
Thank
It was
you.
our pleasure.
we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.